What's going on, everybody? Top 10 Pokemon back, bringing you another top Pokemon card auctions of the week recap. Folks, I was away for 2 weeks, could not do these auction recaps for 2 weeks. What's up with that? So in today's video, we gotta make up for 2 weeks worth of auctions, so tons and tons of Pokemon cards to cover. Now we've been seeing a flood in the past few weeks of CGC 10 Gem Mint graded Pokemon cards come through in market. We'll be comparing several of the CGC 10 Gem Mint cards to PSA 10 Gem Mint cards, and we'll see what kind of price difference we get between those two grades. So stay tuned to the very end. We got a ton of auctions to go through. A very quick shout out to the sponsor of today's video, Z&G Emporium's eBay auction consignment services. Z&G Emporium is running a promo all through August, where your cards that sell for over $1,000 will now have a fee of 8.9% instead of 13.9%, which, if you don't know, is way under eBay fee percentages. Even if your card doesn't sell for over $1,000, their fee of 13.9% is still a fantastic deal. They also have a service now where they will send your raw cards to be graded by CGC for only $8.99 per card. And then they auction them off for you once they've returned from grading. Head over to zngemporium.com for all the details on how to submit your raw and graded TCG cards. Alright folks, as usual, a ton of auctions to go over, a lot of market talk to be had. Let's get started with some modern sales, starting with this PSA 10 Holo Chansey from Evolutions. One of the most expensive graded Evolutions cards that you can get your hands on, believe it or not. This card has sold in auction for $565. Now, several months ago, maybe even over a year ago, I'm not quite sure, but this card at one point was selling for about $1,233, back when it was a Pop 4 PSA 10 card. Now, I'm not exactly sure how many's in the Pop report. I know it's still very low, and it still sells for over $500, which is a real testament to how difficult this particular card is to grade. We also saw from the XY era this full art Pikachu from the Generations Radiant collection in PSA 10 that sold for $460, and then we saw this Japanese full art Sylveon EX from the Pokéyon collection. This is the first edition card that sold for $1,200. Getting into the Sun and Moon era, we saw the Latios Alt Art GX card in PSA 10. We saw a few sales. One sold for an even $2,000. Another PSA 10 sold for $2,275. Here we saw a BGS 10 Black Label Amazing Rare Celebi from Vivid Voltage that sold for $485. We saw the Black Label Mewtwo V-Star from Crown Zenith that sold this week for $906 US. And then here we have a CGC 10 Perfect Sylveon GX from Hidden Fates that sold for $280. Here is a BGS 10 Black Label Pikachu from the Precious Collector's Box that sold for $2,550. Here we have a 25th anniversary Japanese Blastoise Holo. Got the CGC 10 Perfect grade and sold for an even $300 this week, while the BGS 10 Black Label copy of this card sold for $565. Up next is a Black Label Charizard VMAX from Shining Fates that sold for $1,750, and then we saw a couple of Moonbryon sales come by. Here's a BGS 10 Pristine Moonbryon that sold for $1,075. Here we have a CGC 10 Pristine Moonbryon that sold for $1,136, and then a CGC 10 Perfect copy sold for $3,251. And then lastly, for our modern Pokemon cards, I stumbled across this little number right here. It is a Radiant Venusaur, graded by EMC Grading, a company I've never heard of, and it didn't sell. Nobody bid on it. And let me just say, this is like the worst graded card label I have ever seen. It's like a ghetto PSA wannabe label. It looks awful. Yeah, don't get your cards graded by these estranged companies that nobody knows about. You're not going to get your money's worth. Up next, folks, we have the vintage portion of our video, where we will be reviewing the CGC 10 Gem Mint grades versus the PSA 10 Gem Mint grades on a lot of these cards. Not all of them have comps, but we're going to go over a lot of these. Here we have a CGC 10 Gem Mint Venusaur from Base Set that sold for $620, while a PSA 10 copy sold for almost double at $1,201. Here we have a CGC 10 Gem Mint First Edition Charmander from Base Set that sold for $620, while the PSA 10 copy has sold for about $871. Here we have a CGC 10 Shadowless Ninetales that sold for $725. Here we have a PSA 10 Base 2 Chansey Holo, another very low pop card that sold for $1,352. Here we have a CGC 10 First Edition Flareon Holo from Jungle that sold for $890. And then here we have a PSA 10 No Symbol Vaporeon Holo, also from Jungle Set, that sold for $4,700. And then here, folks, we have a CGC 10 First Edition Zapdos Holo from Fossil that sold for $455. A couple of cards from Team Rocket. Here's a CGC 10 First Edition Dark Charizard Holo that sold for $2,550, while the PSA 10 copy sold this week for $3,170. Here we have a beautiful Dark Dragonite Holo, graded a CGC 10, that sold for $1,925. And then we saw a couple of cards from the Gym series. Here is an Erica's Dragonair, got the CGC 10, and sold for $420, while a PSA 10 copy sold for $862. And then we also saw this CGC 10 Rockets Scyther Holo, from Gym Heroes that sold for $799, along with this Lieutenant Surge's Fearow First Edition Holo that sold for $487. A couple of very interesting sales from the Neo series. Here is a First Edition Umbreon Holo, the OG Moonbreon from Neo Discovery that sold as a PSA 10 for $5,200. We saw this First Edition Typhlosion 18 from Neo Genesis in PSA 10 that sold for $805, while the CGC 10 First Edition Typhlosion 17 sold for $5,995, along with this CGC 10 First Edition Slowking from Neo Genesis that sold for $1,775. And you never really see PSA 10 copies of this card come by in auction, like, ever. And then lastly, from Neo Genesis, here is a First Edition Lugia Holo, got the CGC 10 Gem Mint, and sold for $13,800. A couple of Shining cards. Here's an Unlimited Shining Magikarp from Neo Revelation, got the CGC 10 and sold for $1,195. And here we have a Shining Celebi, got the CGC 10 Gem Mint, and only sold for $124. That seems awfully low to me, folks. What do you think? Somebody get a steal on this card? And then lastly, we have this Unlimited Shining Charizard from Neo Destiny in PSA 10 that sold for $3,400. Up next, we have a few of the Reverse Holo cards from Legendary Collection. As I said 2 weeks ago, pretty much all these Reverse Holo cards in PSA 10 fetch quite a premium. Every single one of them. Here is a Reverse Holo Growlithe that sold for $455. The Reverse Holo Nidoking sold for $560, while this Hypno here sold for $565. And here we have a Reverse Holo Ghastly that sold for $637. Here we have a Reverse Holo Moltres that sold for $830, along with this Squirtle that sold for $1,275 big ones. And then lastly, for Legendary Collection, we have a regular Holo Jolteon in PSA 10 that sold for $560. Up next, we have another Black Star Promo Eevee Holo in PSA 10. If you recall, 2 weeks ago, this card sold for a little over $4,000. This week, it stumbled a bit, selling for only $3,100. And then a few absolute beauties from E-Series. Here is a holographic Houndoom from Skyridge, got the CGC 10 Gem Mint, and sold for $1,025. Here we have a PSA 10 Holo Feraligatr from Expedition, one of the best looking cards ever, that sold for $1,325. And then also from Expedition, we saw a CGC 10 Gem Mint Holographic Mew that sold for $2,750. And then lastly, for the E-Series, we have a holographic Charizard from Expedition, got the CGC 10 Gem Mint grade, and sold for $5,995. Up next, a couple of Gold Star sales. Here is a Gold Star Entei as a CGC Gem Mint 10, sold for $536. And here we have a CGC 10 Gold Star Suicune that sold for $710, while the PSA 10 copy sold for a bit more at $1,180. And let's not forget the Gold Star Vaporeon from EX Power Keepers that sold this week as a PSA 10 for $2,046. A couple of gorgeous old school EX cards. Here is a Mew EX from Holon Phantoms in PSA 10 that sold for $1,400. We have a Suicune EX from Team Magma versus Team Aqua that sold for $1,950. And then the Celebi EX that graded a CGC 10 sold for $2,750. And then from Topps Chrome, we saw this PSA 10 Charizard Sparkle card that sold for $10,098. And then lastly on eBay, we saw this CGC 10 Gem Mint Metal Charizard from the Ultra Premium Collection box sold for $1,325, whereas a PSA 10 has been selling for around $2,347. On to the PWCC weekly auction recap. We actually have 2 weeks worth. Let's go over them. Here we have a 1995 Japanese Top Sun Blueback, no number, Poliwrath. That was a mouthful. This is a Pop 2 PSA 10 card that sold for $1,650. And then we had an Alakazam, same deal, Blueback, no number, Pop 4 that sold for an even $3,000. And then we saw several very low population PSA 10 Neo cards. These are all unlimited copies. Here is an unlimited Feraligatr Holo from Neo Genesis that sold for $1,800. This is a Pop 7 card. Here we had an unlimited Suicune in PSA 10 that sold for $3,120. And then a Holo Misdreavus from Neo Revelation, Pop 5 PSA 10s that sold for $3,120. A couple of more vintage Charizards came by. Here is a Dark Charizard, first edition holo from Team Rocket that sold for $3,600, while the Blaine's Charizard first edition holo from Gym Challenge had a very healthy sale of $4,560. We saw this PSA 10 Espeon EX from Unseen Forces that sold for $3,360. We did see one of these sell on eBay as a CGC 10 Gem Mint that sold for $2,388. Here we have a BGS 10 Black Label Rowlett Scream promo that sold for $3,240. This is a Pop 2 Black Label card. And then we saw the PSA 10 Mimikyu Scream promo that sold for an even $6,000, while the BGS 10 copy of this card sold for $8,400. And I'll just be over here anxiously awaiting the Black Label sale of this card. It has to come by one of these days, right? Here we have a BGS 10 Black Label Rayquaza VMAX alt art from Evolving Skies that sold for $3,120. And then we saw this yet again, this limited collection Master Battle Set promo Alola Friends in PSA 10 that sold for $6,900, while a CGC 10 Perfect Example sold for $7,200. And we can't forget this PSA 10 20th Anniversary Festa Holo Pikachu card that sold for $11,100. A couple of raw trophy cards that hit some pretty big numbers. Here is a 2022-2023 National Championships Asia Top 2 Finalist trophy card featuring all of the brand new starters that sold for $5,400. And then we saw this 2008 Miracle Diamond Battle Road Shield 1 of 24 card that sold for $16,200. And the auction of the week, we're gonna have to give to this PSA 10 Sun and Moon promo of the Extra Battle Day Full Art Lily card that sold for a staggering $108,000. Now folks, before I end this video, I want to do just a couple of more comparisons between CGC and PSA, and also some craziness ever since CGC announced they were going to change their 9.5s to 10s. So any potential butthurt CGC collectors, I'm sorry, you might want to turn off the video now or get your ointment out. I'm not sure what you want to do, but we're going to go over a few of these sales because they are very interesting. Here we have a CGC 9.5 Unlimited Base Set Charizard, and we had a few sales all throughout the year. Back in February, this card was selling for $1,950. Back in April, we had a sale, even with the subgrades here, of $1,937. And then, 3 months ago, back in May, this card sold yet again for $1,950. So it seemed to be about this price, right? All throughout this year, it's been selling for about $1,950. But it seems when you take that 9.5 and then you just change it to a 10 and you put a new label on it, that card then triples in value. Because this past week, we saw a CGC 10 Gem Mint copy of this card, and it now sells for about $6,400, which is 3 times the cost than it was just a couple of months ago. And that's a little bit crazy to me that you take a card that was a 9.5 and now magically it's a 10 and now magically it's over 3 times the price. Is that not crazy? Or what? And the same thing applies to the Shadowless Charizard from base set. We saw just, 2 months ago, a CGC 9.5 Shadowless Charizard that was listed for $15,000, had a best offer accepted price of $12,975. And then we saw a different example of this card, but with the subgrades, that was listed for $15,000, and it sold for about $11,000, best offer accepted. But like I said, you put the magic 10 on there and boom, it is over 3 times the cost, now selling for about $37,700. So my question to you, do you think these new CGC 10 gem mint labels are all they're cracked up to be? Do you think that these prices are justified? Do you think these prices are going to stick around? Let me know in the comments below. I'm looking forward to hearing from you. Thank you so much for watching, folks. I appreciate it. I love this community. That's all I got for you in today's video. I'll catch you all in my next one.